Hello, 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 and welcome to Writer's Tips and Feedback. My name is Samantha Wright. I am a writer, a hobbyist photographer, and a wife. This video, as you can see, is going to be about filtering. The whole purpose is to connect the reader to the story, so filtering makes that extremely hard. Filter phrases are those like, I looked, I felt, I could tell, I knew, and so on. A few examples would be, I watched Anne sign the paper. If you're telling me Anne signed the paper, then you're obviously watching her. Simply stating Anne signed the paper is all that is really necessary. Another example, I looked at Anne and she smiled at me. Again, it isn't necessary to tell me you've looked at Anne. The fact you see her smiling at you lets me know you're looking at her. Otherwise, you wouldn't be able to tell me exactly what she was doing. Simply stating she smiled at me is perfectly fine, and that is what we would prefer you to do. I felt tears running down my face. I read this one far too often. As with the last two examples, the fact you feel the tears running down your face means you could just describe them as that. If you didn't feel the tears, you wouldn't be mentioning them. Tears fell down my face is the correct way to write that sentence. You don't have to tell me you felt the tears. Another example, I could tell by his face he knew I had caught him in a lie. Here is nearly the same as the last three, only in order to eliminate the filtering, you need to add to the sentence. You need to ask how you can tell he knew he'd been caught in the lie. Perhaps he broke our gaze, but not before his cheeks flushed. So I would like to point out, in each of these examples, basically the main point of them is a lot of writers believe they have to tell someone they are looking at something in order to describe it. You don't have to do that though. It's actually unnecessary and we would prefer that you don't do that. I do not have to say, I looked at the dog to describe the dog. If I'm describing the dog, I'm obviously looking at the dog. That is what I mean by filtering, and when you do that, you sort of take the reader out of the story and it doesn't become an experience for them. It more so becomes reading, which is not what you want. It sounds odd because they're reading a book, but when a person reads a book, they're doing it to immerse themselves within the story. They're not doing it to feel like they're reading. They're doing it to experience another life or another world. Filtering is just another form of telling, and replacing these will improve your writing in huge ways. And developing a habit of cutting these phrases can develop your showing skills as well. Feel free to subscribe if you like the content I am offering. Jump on over to Facebook and check out that writers group over there, also called Writers Tips and Feedback.